everyone's going to be like, I don't recognize her from.
We are live. Hey everyone, we are live. My name is Sandra Torres, and I am here with Denise Soler Cox. Hope you guys are doing well. Let us know in the comments if you're tuning in. So excited. Give me a second. I want to share this. Make sure we're sharing this out. All right. All right. We are live on Facebook.
Awesome. So you connected this connects to Facebook?
Correct.
Zoom does, but my guess is it's probably a little bit easier.
I find this one to be a lot easier. Yes.
Good to know. Note to self.
Yes. So welcome everybody. I'm so excited. Today is Women Wednesday. We feature a woman, and we are blessed to have Denise with us. And I'm going to share a little bit about her if you don't know already. But we're going to have some interesting conversations, and we want you guys to chime in because these are some real talk, some issues that aren't openly discussed, but they need to be. And we need to really have these more often at the kitchen table or with your girlfriends or with your community or at events. So this is so exciting. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to read a snippet of who Denise is, and then I want to share how I came across Denise to begin with.
Oh, that was fun. I don't know that story. I'm excited.
I know. So Denise is an award-winning Latina filmmaker and cultural storyteller. Denise is dedicated to helping people transform how we experience culture, identity, and what it really means to belong. She's built a reputation as a speaker and has the rare ability to shine a light on sensitive and ignored topics, some of which we're going to be discussing today with clarity, honesty, and humor. And Denise is also going to be our keynote speaker for Hispanic Heritage Month on September 15th from 12 to 2 p.m. So you guys need to make sure that you are registered and you tune in for that as well. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. And welcome to everybody who's listening live with us and also on the recording. I appreciate it.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking about a couple things. First, I want you to kind of give us a quick little background on you.
Yeah. So I am one of the co-founders of Project Enya. I was actually just talking to my creative partner, and I always tell him he doesn't get enough airtime, because he's kind of like he's my partner in crime, but I'm kind of the face of everything. So his name is Henry. And 8 years ago, I pitched Henry, who is an Oscar-nominated documentarian, an idea to make a film about 16 million Latinos living in the United States whose parents were immigrants or came from Spanish-speaking countries. And the idea was born from my own experience growing up in the suburbs of New York City and not feeling like the classic Latina enough or American enough, in my case, Puerto Rican enough, and really dealing with that identity issue that kind of starts when we're kids and really follows us through a lifetime. And I desperately wanted to tell this story, but also didn't feel, interestingly enough, Latina enough to tell it. And so I held on to the idea for 17 years, really believing that there was a better person than me to make this film, until one day I just said, you know what, I'm that person. I'm going to do this. And I don't know what the road ahead looks like or what it's going to entail, but I'm willing to go on that journey because the story being told became more important to me than what I might have to go through to tell it. So that film came out 4 years ago. Super proud of it. And I've been on the road, except for this year, with that film now for 4 years, and totally mind-blowing experience to have people still interested in wanting to screen the film in their companies, in their schools, in their universities, associations, and conferences. And I've been speaking about the themes in the film, which is about Latinidad mainly, and all of the related issues that kind of like what you said in the beginning that we don't necessarily talk about, but that we need to talk about over the last 3 years. And then I'm doing a lot of virtual events this year.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. When I first started United Latinas, that was kind of my journey too. I was like, my Spanish is not 100% perfect, but I feel this in my heart, And I actually came across with you on Twitter was the first time.
Oh, no
And
way.
yes, 'cause I'm looking for, Latinas out there that I can collaborate with that can help me solidify my own personal message. And I came across Project Enye, and then I saw a clip of the trailer, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's my story. I'm not Puerto Rican enough. I'm not American enough, and I've always felt it." And it was just like, I have to connect with this woman.
Uh-huh.
Telling my story, like it's exactly my story. And that was I think we got you on the radio show when I had about 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and we've been connected on Facebook and just stayed in touch. And but that story doesn't die. Like it is the truth of what we're living in, and there's a lot of South Americans, even in America, who are establishing this toggle of two worlds. You are Latina, you are American. And how do you belong? How do you find that center where you feel you fit in, or maybe you don't always feel that way?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the big question, right? And like trying to always kind of in that inquiry, always in that thought process, like where do I fit in, and who am I, and where do I fit in, is actually, we think as Latinos, it's our question, but it's actually a question of humanity, and that actually can provide a lot of relief. And it's the reason why my partner took on this project to begin with, because he said, this story is bigger than just the Latino community. And at the time, I told him, no, this is just for us. Like, I don't want this to be any bigger than this. But there actually was a universality that at the time I didn't see. And it's that everybody kind of is in that, everyone is often wondering, or at least let's say, I don't know, once a week maybe, is there a place for me here, or is this place for me? Or so, especially when we think about professional situations, when people walk into them, wonder, am I qualified enough to be here? Do I have enough experience to be here? Or everyone seems to fit here except for me. And oftentimes they won't say those things out loud, but we know that they're thinking about them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
Latinos have it, I think, on steroids, because then we have an extra layer, that cultural layer of either ourselves, if we're immigrants, or our children, or our children's children, whatever generation you fall, into this conversation yourself. There's an element of not belonging simply because there's another language, or there's food, traditions, stories, things that are very different than what I call mainstream culture, that will in our skin color, right? Skin, hair texture, body type, body shape, things that are outwardly different than what we're seeing, like in the media, let's say, that will that fast make us feel like we're not part of the group.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, even when I was in my 20s, like an executive environment, I would always think, as being the only Latina on that boardroom,
Mm-hmm.
I would always, do I belong here? I'm in a room amongst men. They don't understand my culture, and they actually, I feel, look down on our culture, right? I think or maybe that's just something that is just culturally we feel innately, because it was, am I, exactly what you said, am I qualified to be here? Even though you feel qualified, you feel, but I'm
Right.
still a minority, or we just kind of take that in, I think, culturally, as baggage.
Yeah, and then I don't disagree. I do believe there's a bunch of people out there that don't give our culture the respect that it deserves. I 100% believe there's systemic racism. And I also believe that there's something that we can do about that conversation. There's something that we can bring to the table that we're not bringing, which is like, yes, whether or not someone values the culture that I come from doesn't take away from the fact that I bring two cultures with me to this table, two understandings, and those ideological differences, and the fact that we understand them is not highlighted enough. And that's part of the work that I'm doing with Project Enya that I feel like is the never ending work that I love to do, which is highlighting that if we're American and we're Latino, we actually understand it's not just the two cultures, like, wow, two bananas or two oranges or two apples. It's like we understand apples and oranges. Like we understand cultures that are diametrically opposed. We understand how to win, especially if we're high achieving. And we, I think, need to be reminded often that we bring this skill set and these tools to the table that, yes, are not regarded or respected, but we just need to remember that they're respectable and highly regarded because they're very valuable.
Absolutely. How do you think we can do that? Like, how do we start that?
Yeah. So I think the fundamental thing is just to kind of uncover in language what's really happening here. And so this will sound a little bit like, I don't know, like a history class or maybe a sociology class, but so here in the United States, we value, or what's valued here is derived from Northern Europe, and it's called self-reliance. It's an ideology, and it's really just the way that human beings see the world. And so the best way to look at it is like, I'm wearing glasses, right? And so there's a lens that I'm looking through. I'm extremely farsighted, so I'm like totally blind. And so there's a way that I see the world, right? And so let's say if there were rose-colored glasses, like I would see the world through these rose-colored glasses. Everything would have a rose-colored tint. And so if someone asked me, what color is that? Right? As long as I'm wearing these things, I'm going to say it has a rosy color, right? It has a warm quality about it, but it's because I'm looking through these glasses, and that interpretation is going to be what's right for me. Okay, so here's a real world example. Latinos often look at self-reliant culture or mainstream culture here in the United States as selfish and self-centered, right? Because it revolves around self. Like, what college am I going to? Where am I going next? What's my next job? What's in this for me, right? And as Latinos, we kind of look down on that because we come from a collective ideology, and that lens prioritizes the group, or it prioritizes family. Okay, and so we kind of put our nose down to anybody that at all will call attention to themselves, right? Well, look at what I did, look at my achievement here. That's not okay. You don't pull yourself out of the group, which can be kind of comforting to come from a culture or ethnic group that really sticks together, right? In families and in tribes and as groups. The only problem is that corporate America, as we know it today here in the United States, really values self-reliance. So Latinos at work are really bad. And I hate to offend anyone's sensibilities here, but you're really bad at self-advocating, okay? And so we, in a professional environment, might see someone saying, well, here's something fun that I'm super proud of that I actually don't talk about a lot. And as a listener, I want you to notice how you feel when I say this. Being Enya, my award-winning film, is taught at Harvard University as part of the Harvard School of Education. There's a class that they talk about the storytelling and personal narrative, and they use our film to teach that. Okay, I rarely share that, and I should share it more, right? But some people listening might be like, oh, excuse me, who does she think she is, right? Like, are you trying to be better than me?
Mm-hmm. Or we think that, or we,
right. Exactly, right. Because in Latino culture, I'm not saying categorically it's like this, okay? So seriously, just hear me out. We do have a level of doing this to each other, and especially women on women. And that's a whole nother conversation that I noted you wanted to bring up. But we'll be like, oh, excuse me, like, her film is taught in Harvard, what, right? And it's like, yeah, and guess what? Because it is something that you're doing, also there's a place for what you could do too in these ivory towers of our society, right? And because who would have thought a girl from the Bronx could have a movie that she may be used in like the most edified educational institution in the world, right? And that should make you feel more empowered. If you're feeling disempowered, then you have the problem, not me. And I'm not meaning to offend somebody. I do want to challenge, though, the way that we see the world. And I'm not also saying that the way that Latino people see the world is bad either, because I'm Latina. I happen to think that the way that I see the world is right? But that's not true either. There is no right or wrong. And here's the heart of the heart is that if you have been raised here in the United States and you are from a lineage of from a Spanish-speaking country, you understand both. At some level, you understand both of these things. And if you can bring the best of the collective, and I think the best of the collective is how we edify our elders, right? And how we respect each other and how we have this high regard for family. I mean, think about what a family is. It really just looks like a team at work. We're great team players. We need to recognize we come to teams with way more skills than our non-Latino counterparts because they're just thinking about themselves. We're thinking about the weird cousin that is always arguing with everybody. We're thinking about the, you know what I mean? We have the crazy uncle, the weird cousin. We understand how to deal with these archetypes of personalities and how to make sure everyone is included, everyone is heard, and that we all move as a group. We forget that when we walk into these places and spaces because we're so preoccupied with that imposter syndrome. Like, have I earned this enough? Do I have enough degrees? Do I have enough certifications? Yes, you do. If you're there, yes, you do. And you need to own it, right? Now, when we're in these self-reliant kind of situations, especially when it comes to professional situations, corporate America is built on self-reliance, okay? And so we need to know that if we assert something that we think is selfish or self-centered or drawing attention to ourselves, that actually wins over here. And we need, I hate to say we need, like you need, but guess what? If we want to win the game, we need to understand how to bring those accomplishments. Like somebody on LinkedIn, someone tagged me on something on LinkedIn that was so great. Someone just said, I'm just going to start the conversation here because we need to stop doing this. And she had just, she had just accomplished getting a double master's or a PhD or something really awesome, right? And she just kind of said, like, asserted this thing, like, I'm going to stop this. This stops here. Like, I'm going to brag now about this accomplishment. And then the same thing happened in our Facebook group, our Project Enya Facebook group. 2 weeks ago, someone posted something like that and everybody went crazy. And so we really do want each other to succeed. We just have to get past that initial, who do you think you are? Do you think you're better than me thing, right? Mm-hmm. Because I don't think I'm better than you. I don't. Like, I actually think I'm better because of you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here right now. We just have to kind of get it right contextually and know that there's plenty for everybody. There's enough room. Trust me, there's enough room.
I completely agree with that. You know, like one of the things for me, and I love that you brought that up on how we feel about when somebody humble brags or brags. For me, if I see somebody, I'm like, oh, wow, that's so awesome. At the same time, I feel like, gosh, why do I feel like if I did the same thing, people would look at me like I'm, bragging,
because they would, Sandra, right? That's why we have to stay. That's why I always told you, I just adore you. I love how you manage yourself on social media. It really speaks volumes. And I don't know if it's that I feel like I've been doing this for so long. I feel like I have like X-ray vision for amazing people. And you're one of those people. And it's like, because there are, I'll say a lot of people that might look at women like us and just try to make themselves feel better by criticizing us. And you know what? If that's how you feel better, I'm glad I could be a part of it. Right? But we have to support each other because I get so excited. And as you know, that you're a part of this amazing event that we're going to do on the 15th. And I personally get inspired by Latinas just kicking butt and taking names. Like there isn't much else that inspires me than a liberated Latina owning her power, right? Because we have a lot of young Latinas out there that are watching us, right? And they understand what's going on. They understand way more than we think. And we have to give them a good show. Why? Because they deserve to feel themselves as a powerful woman too. And so we have to be willing, if you don't mind me saying this, to be uncomfortable with the truth that, yeah, some people are going to hate and criticize, but some people are going to be inspired. And my final point to wrap that up is we have to watch out who we hang out with, right? And who we spend time with, including the people that get to have time on our Facebook feed. And I love seeing your posts because they lift me up and they add to me. And guess what? I do lots of unfollowing, because if I see somebody hating, guess what? I don't have time for that. I'm creating big stuff, only positive in over here. That's all that's allowed. Or constructive criticism, right? That kind of feedback. But I don't have time to be tearing anybody else down. And honestly, if you're creating something really big, chances are you're not tearing other people down. Who has time for that?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, that's why I'm like even searching for people like you. You know, it's like, where are these women that can give me that same motivation, that we can kind of just bounce off each other, because you are truly inspirational to me. Like, when I first came across your stuff, I'm like, wow, she's doing it. She took it and she started doing something, and she pursued this, and with such gusto, like with such, you know, and I want to be around those people, because that's how we lift each other up, you know. Yeah. And that's, you know, part of the mission of United Latinas is, you know, we want to engage the community. We want to lift the community, because if there's a lot of people pulling strings, trying to pull people down, we're not going to move the ball forward. And one of the things, and I love that you said it, it's the people around us. Culturally, in Hispanic cultures, there's a lot of naysayers. There's a lot of people that don't have that self-belief in you, or try to deter you. Don't pursue that. Don't do that. You know, make sure get a you know, a decent job. You know, like, the idea of having ambitions and aspirations and feeling like, no, I want to take this on, is not wholly supported within the Latino community.
It isn't. And I think, you know, and we can see why, like, externally, like, we don't want to make a mistake. I mean, there was a certain speech that was made recently, and I was like, please, I feel like that set us back, you know, with all of her enthusiasm and all this stuff. I'm just like, why does she have to be Latina? Like, we're like, you know, when we're incorporated in like the mainstream culture, that's like the last example I want people to think when they think of us, right? But we are passionate and we have a lot to say, right? But there's a bunch of people that are threatened by us. I'm going to say externally, right? That are threatened. The people that are going to be threatened are threatened. The people that are going to be inspired are inspired. The people that are going to be excited are excited, right? So there's always somebody that's going to hate. There's always someone that's going to encourage. And then those people can be clumped in groups of people. And there's always going to be people that are threatened, regardless of if it's Latinos today or Black people tomorrow, or, you know, Irish, Italians back, you know, when that was happening, like, there's always people that are going to feel threatened. And so we always have to deal with that. So of course we don't want to make a misstep. Of course we want to do it as perfect as possible, right? We also, because of the real, like, there's some just real threats to Latinos in this country right now. I don't need to remind you of what happened in El Paso. Like, it is unsafe. Sometimes it feels unsafe, like physically unsafe to be Latino here in this country. That is very real, right? And how else can we be? Can we be courageous in the face of that? Can we unite? Can we consider, like, that we all experience that, right? And that there isn't one of us out there that isn't wondering, like, am I at any time, like, could I be unsafe, right? Like, and at the same time, like, because they're real threats, external threats, like, why are we being critical with each other? Like, we don't need that. There's enough criticism for us outside of us. In my opinion, we need to check ourselves. So before we, you know, criticize somebody for what they're wearing, or criticize somebody for what they're saying, or criticize somebody because they didn't do it perfect, or their Spanish isn't perfect, which is, like, honestly, I'm so sick of that one. Just be quiet. Like, it's like that whole thing. If you don't have anything nice to say, instead of not saying something nice, actually, if you don't have something nice to say, yes, say something nice. Think of something nice and supportive to say. For goodness sakes, We need all the support and encouragement that we could possibly get, because imposter syndrome is so real for us. Imposter syndrome is alive and well in every marginalized community. And so it starts off with like women, right? And then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and harder and harder and harder the more specific the group gets. And so why is that? Because we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't know about you, but we moved. If you haven't seen my film, you can watch my film, go to projectenya.com, and you can watch my film for free. And you'll learn that my family moved us from the Bronx. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in the Bronx to Westchester County, which is the second wealthiest county in the United States. Okay. And this Puerto Rican family that could barely afford to heat the house, my dad actually had to build a chimney so that we could heat the house. And we all slept in the basement one winter because they couldn't afford to heat the house. So this Puerto Rican family has the courage to move to Westchester, right, and live this big life and try to. My parents just gave us everything that they could possibly give us, and I totally just lost my train of thought. Tell me where I was. This is what happens all the time. What was anybody listening to what I was saying? I'm gonna look.
Yeah, the heat.
No, not the heat. There was like a bigger point that I was gonna make. What was it? What was the last thing you said? This happens.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll think of it.
Yeah, we
there's something that
I know we got a lot of comments coming in, but you know that leads me to kind of the second thing that I wanted to talk about. We can kind of go back and forth throughout it, but I was having a conversation with somebody a couple months back, and we were talking about the place, like especially in corporate America, you know, where if you're a Latina and there's another Latina, the sense of competition in that environment, because we think that if there's going to be a rate or, you know, a promotion of any sort within an organization, it's almost like, well, they're not ever going to put 2 Latinas up there, you know. So you're you know, it establishes this, well, I got to get there first, you know, I got to, you know, you're competing with your sisters, right, you know, thinking, you know, that you're reaching this opportunity, but to be unhappy, because soulfully we all want all of us to grow deep inside, but we're fighting for this place in a world where we have identity imposter syndrome at times.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. And so just to complete the thought of the imposter syndrome is, you know, we move there, we don't have a lot, right? We're still middle class, but moving into a super wealthy area. And it's like, you know, it's expensive. It was during the oil crisis in the 70s. And so, you know, I didn't know if I was sleeping in my bedroom or the basement. Like, as Latinos, we're taught to survive. And it's like this lucha culture, like the lucha is real. Like, we're always in this struggle culture and mindset, right? And so, yeah, put us in a boardroom with some people, even though we're educated, we have all the certifications, we've got all the experience, we're going to feel at some point like something here is going to go wrong. Like something is going to happen. When instead of trusting that, actually, no, I totally belong here. I can contribute here. I am so overqualified to be here. This is just not thoughts that go through our head. I'll say for the most part, okay, because someone here is disagreeing with me, saying, I don't experience that, right? I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about everybody else. Because the feeling never goes away. I was pitching my film at HBO in Hudson Yards last August, and I'm walking down the hall, and the assistant was like, once you see the Wonder Woman costume, make a right. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in HBO. And it wasn't the first time, it was my third time. And I'm still intimidated. I'm still thinking, who the hell am I to be here? I'm still thinking, oh my God, my new movie idea totally sucks. They're going to hate it. And it just doesn't ever go away. And then I'm like, no, Denise, you're here. You deserve it. Every step, like disagreeing with myself. Little did anyone know I'm having this whole freaking dialogue going on, right? But guess what? I took up space. Even though I was nervous, I took up space, right? And that's what you need to do. And so, yes, and thank you, Wanda. I think it was Wanda. Imposter syndrome. Thank you. I appreciate it. That we think that that unfortunately, and the thing is, I don't want anyone to hear this like you're wrong or like I'm judging you. I'm not. I am so human. I didn't even blow my hair out today. Okay. Like, this is how human I am. I think that we have a problem in our culture thinking that there's not enough, but it comes from the fact that there didn't seem to be enough, right? My parents didn't have enough money to heat our house. Yes, that's like, I'm seeing that as like a 7, 8-year-old kid. My counterparts that were going to school were not having to sleep in their basement. They weren't overhearing conversations in Spanish that they weren't supposed to understand about not being able to pay the bills, right? I get it. There's a reason why me and you and other Latinos that you know have this enoughness thing, okay? The thing is that happened when we were kids. We like that happened a long time ago. We're talking in the 1970s. I'm an adult and so are you. We can change the narrative. But the way that it kind of appears and surfaces is very insidious. And it might seem like, oh my God, like what you said, they're not going to pick two Latinas, right? That's the way that it shows up in your life. It doesn't show up in your life in a linear, easy to understand way. It shows up in your life in the way that where it's like lack, where it's like not believing there's plenty of room, where it doesn't, where they're just, where we're looking at life through this lens of there's not enough, I'm right and you're wrong. Because if you're friends with someone like me and you try to tell me that there's no opportunity for you, that you don't have, that you're not certified, that you don't have the certifications and you don't have the education, I'm going to say, stop lying. No, I'm sorry, because the person here in front of me is totally qualified. I'm sorry, I'm not going to believe your lies, right? Because the only reason why I'm sitting here on this call with my hair not blown out and imperfect as I am is because one day I just decided to be enough to make a single phone call. And that was to make an appointment with my now creative partner 8 years ago to pitch an idea about a film about our experience as Latinos in the United States, right? And it wasn't like instantly I felt like I was enough. There's probably a million moments, including last summer at HBO. Like the feeling never goes away. I've only ever really been able to deal with it, right? And so also too, those of you that are like, I don't know what she's talking about, like get over yourself. You're not playing a big enough game then. Because if you're really playing a big game, it's human. It's human to experience I'm not enough. It's actually our subconscious mind trying to protect us, okay? It's okay to admit it, right? It's actually better if you admit it because then we can talk about it and feel this sense of unification or feel a sense of camaraderie, like, wow, she deals with that, I deal with that. Okay, I'm normal. And like you can't put a price tag on feeling normal and not alone.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And I think that kind of stems with what we do to help that. How do we start changing our mindset? What do we read? How do we educate ourselves? How do we empower ourselves? How do we consume the things that are going to just like flip that switch in our minds and say, you know what? Hold up. I am worthy. I do have something to contribute. And that is, after I think somebody wrote generational beliefs, we do inherit these generational beliefs.
Yeah.
But we right now as Latinas and the Latinx community as a whole have to, if we haven't already, turn that switch around and develop now for the future generations and write that new story, create those new generational beliefs for those that come after us, that we do have a place at the table. We belong at the table.
Right. And so here's something, great conversation, such a worthwhile conversation we're having right now. Like seriously, my favorite thing to talk about is this exact thing. We consider this idea. Okay. I'm going to throw it out there. Okay. Consider that if you experience, I don't know if like that question, like, do I belong here? If you experience, I want a seat at this table, or I don't feel like I'm qualified enough though. If you experience this, then you have a worthiness issue. Okay? Not bad, not wrong. Not at all, actually. It's actually perfectly human to experience this feeling of unworthiness, right? Here's what we can do is entertain the idea that you are worthy because you are. That worthiness is not earnable, and that there is a quality in our culture that flips this switch that makes us believe that we have to earn like love, that we have to earn attention, that these things are earnable, but it is not true. Okay? Your achievements do not correlate with your worthiness. Your awesome degrees, your amazing certifications, qualifications, they don't mean anything when it comes to your worthiness. You are worthy of all of it and then some, because you are. I have such a beef with this thing, because for so long I believed that I had to earn my worthiness. Okay. That I started this thing with my children, and I have 2 daughters, and ever since they were young, like if I pulled them in right now, I could ask them this and this exact thing would happen. I start by saying, does mommy love you? Yes. How much does mommy love you? And they say endless, or they'll say infinity. And then I say, is there anything that you can do to change mommy, or does mommy's love change for you ever? And the answer is yes. And I say, really, is that true? How does mommy's love change for you? And they say, it grows. I'm like, well, could it ever stop growing? Nope, it's impossible. What do you do to make mommy love you so much? And you know what the answer is? I'm me. That's it. I'm like, so you don't have to do anything. You don't have to vacuum or change or clean your room. You don't have to do the laundry or do the dishwasher, because I'm always on them to do the dishwasher, right? To take your plates and put them in the dishwasher, right? No. My love grows for them. They need nothing. They need do nothing. They need be nothing. All they have to do is be themselves. And my kids get that. And how do I know that? Because I've been saying this to them, and we've been going through this back and forth since they were little kids, since they could start talking. And they walk around, they're 11 and 12, and they are so confident. And they have this, they just have the stability within themselves that I just didn't have. It took me 40 years to get to where they are at 10 or 11 and 12. And I know this is a revolutionary idea, but you can have and do and be anything you want simply because you want it. There's no additional anything that you need to get or achieve in order to be successful at that which you desire. And I know for some people, they're like, woo, that just went way crazy woo-woo. I'm a little crazy woo-woo, just so you know, because I have no training in being a filmmaker, nor did I ever get any. I was a speaker. I used to get paid $50 to go to middle schools here in Denver to speak for 15 minutes about what it was like to be a graphic designer. Okay, that's the extent of my speaking. And now I get paid tens of thousands of dollars to speak at Fortune 100 companies. Okay, I didn't have the qualifications until one day I just said, I don't care. I'm going to take up space here. And so this is the place I'm going to take up space. And I'm willing to feel all the feelings, cry all the tears, deal with all the uncomfortable crap that comes up with it, because so much uncomfortable crap comes up with it. And I'm going to be sharing my journey with all of you. Great segue, right? I'm going to be sharing this entire journey with all of you on the 15th. And I hope I got that date right. It's September 15th, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. I mean, I that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? As in the Latino culture, it's just, you just brought up so many strong points of how we feel internally and how we need to change that narrative within ourselves. Because if we don't do it, no one else is going to do it for us. And with each step forward that we take in the pursuit of something bigger than ourselves, and in the steps of walking in fear and walking in the mud and walking with criticism and worrying about what everybody thinks, but taking those steps anyway just helps build the muscle that we start. Okay, well, I'm going in this direction, and that I think starts. I don't know if it ever goes away. I think we still all feel, some of those feelings anyway, but it starts building that courage to say, wow, oh my God, look where I'm at right now. Look how far I've grown and where my mindset is right now. And it's almost like you want everyone to feel that way. You want everyone to feel that, go pursue, because the world would be better if we all pursued these passions within us, and these, this empowering others. So many, one thing that I've always said in some of the workshops I do is, so many women, when I say who wants to empower other women, a lot of women would raise their hand, but it's, how do we do that? How do we empower others when some inside of us, and I've found some, like, within, still feel those feelings, but we all still have that heart to say, I feel like this, but I want to make sure that this culture moves forward, and we move on to the next, evolution of what we are.
Yeah. And, it's only Latinos think like this, like, and also would get inspired by this, because it's inspiring to me. Like, wow, if I can be a trailblazer, then look at all of the people that will feel inspired, especially our young Latina youth. Like, literally, they're just such an important group of people in this conversation, okay, for lots of reasons. And we are the only ones that think like this. like people that are dominant, self-reliant people, they're not having a conversation. Think about all the people you can inspire. They're not thinking that. They're thinking, what would it be like to live a life of my dreams? And the thing is, that's great. And it's not wrong or bad, but it's really inspiring, and personally for me too, to think, yes, like, if we could trailblaze, right? If we could transcend that which holds us back, holy smokes, it's so gratifying, the idea that people would be inspired to step into their own greatness as a result, right? But here's the thing. You can't wait. Like, you sometimes, and I did this, and just so you know, I did it for 17 years. 17 years I waited to make the film that hopefully you'll have seen at least by the 15th, okay? And you can watch it, projectenya.com. You can just put your email and you can watch it for free. It took me 17 years because I was waiting for the feelings of insufficiency to go away. Like, I thought, oh, well, as soon as I feel courageous and confident, then I'll do it, right? But it actually didn't come out like that. It was as soon as I had X amount of money in the bank, as soon as, and the funny thing is, I make a joke, like, as soon as I'm a size 6, then, oh my gosh, holy mackerel, wait until then. That's when everything's going to change. But I literally just say that as a joke, because the things that we tell ourselves that need to happen so that something else can happen are never going to happen. And I promise you, if I handed it to you today, you would still not be ready. You wouldn't be ready, because readiness, that feeling never comes.
Yep.
It never comes. But that's why I described, like, the feeling of needing it to happen, the feeling of the story needing to be told, transcended, at least in this moment, how I felt. And that's why I decided to make one phone call. And then, can you imagine, across 8 years of time, all the different moments that I had to just suck it up and say, I know I'm afraid, but I can do this. I can do this. It's like that movie, We Bought a Zoo, which is such an emotional movie. There's like this moment with Matt Damon, and he's talking to this kid and whose mom inherited a zoo or bought a zoo. And he said, and I'm going to get this wrong, but he says, sometimes you just need, like, I think it's 13 seconds of courage. Like, at the very least, we can sum up 13 seconds of courage, right? And I might have gotten that wrong. It might be 8 or 15, but it doesn't matter. Less than 30 seconds. We all have that, right? And imagine if you could just take that and string that together with the next moment, and that you could make progress, because really that's how Project Enya was built. And after a while, I have had a chance to meet some extraordinary people, and I don't know what all of you all are up to on this call, but my guess is if you're on this, you're up to great things, okay? And so you probably know the secret too, which is that nobody that's really playing a really big game ever feels like ready to play it, or ever experiences 100% of the time confidence. Usually, the bigger the game, the louder it gets in here. And what it's saying in here, I have a joke. I say, the devil, the mother, the devil, the angel. And then if you're Latino, you have your mother on there too, So it's even worse for us, because the devil's like, who do you think you are? The angel is like your best friend saying, oh my God, you're amazing. This is going to be so awesome. And then your mother's like, I didn't send you to college for this, right? Or whatever she says. My mother said that. And it's like, so we have all of these thoughts, but they never go away. And so you are in good company if you're feeling like that. And so don't wait to feel ready. Okay. We don't have time. There's no time for readiness. And what needs to happen, and I always have a hard time saying need, but I'm just going to say it. What needs to happen is being around people that think you're amazing. Okay. Not Pollyanna amazing, not at any cost amazing, but being around people that'll see your greatness and that will prop you up when you feel down. My mother is a retired social worker, and she told me when I was young, she said, a good friend will never let you say anything bad about yourself. And, when you're like, oh my God, I just am not good enough. I don't know. You're like, there's friends that be like, don't you talk about yourself like that? That's not true. Like, do you guys know what the kind of friend? Like, you need 50 of those friends. Like, if you have this big idea, you need 50 of those people around you at all times. I'm one of those people. Sandra is one of those people. And my guess is you can at least think of one or two other people. That's like step one. Step two is like, make a small plan of action where it's like those small little moments that you can string together. Can you sum up the courage to do that first hard thing, and then the second hard thing, and then be willing to feel all the feelings that come up with it? I have a joke that I say about Project Enya, and it's I love like personal growth and development books and seminars and stuff like that, and I love like signing up for them and being like, oh, it's this weekend? Great. I'll show up, I'll cry, I'll be transformed, and then I'll be home, and then it's over, right? And I like that. Project Enya was not like that. It was the opposite of that. I was like, oh my God, like, I have to grow from this? You mean I have to change? Like, I'm not in a seminar. I'm not like in an argument with my husband where I have to change or else we're not going to have a happy marriage. Like, I am just at work and I have to change for this to work. Yes, you do. And that's, I feel like, part of the magic of Project Enya is my personal willingness to kind of allow myself to evolve and change and let the learning kind of guide me. Okay. And someone mentioned generational trauma, which is actually the subject of our next film. Our next film is the film Being Enya is a 37-minute documentary short. Our next film is what's called a feature, and so it's longer, and it's going to be about generational trauma. Very, very hard topic, right? Scary, because I know we don't like to talk about this stuff, but important for our culture to start dealing with these issues. Now, am I scared? I guess I'll say it again. I'm scared to be misinterpreted. I'm nervous that people won't understand the reason why I'm making it, right? And I also know it's what's next for me. And so I have to grow into that person, right? To deal with those things so that I can show up for the people that this film is going to heal. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Like, I'm so on ball with you. That is exactly how I feel at times. It's sometimes you don't feel ready, but you have to force yourself to take those steps because you cannot stay the same. You have to evolve to a better version of you. You have to constantly challenge the self-limiting belief, those thoughts that are within you that are holding you back. And we have to challenge ourselves to come face to face with that and say, let me just take a step forward past that. And little by little, we may not ever be, and I don't think there's any human that will ever be relieved of the fear of taking steps, because that is the center of life. Growth is painful, but it's a mandatory.
Yes. Yeah. Well, if we want to live a life of consequence, right? And I feel like there are leaders among us, Sandra, and they're on this call. We're watching this. They feel it. I know you feel it. I know you haven't taken the leap, and I know why. And I'm just telling you right now, if you feel it, you can do it. And I don't want to sound like a cliche or like some dumb commercial for Pepsi or whatever, or maybe Gatorade. I don't know who would say that. But like, if you feel it, it means you can do it. And I can't tell you how many people, this is hilarious, how many people have come up to me after screening the film, like when we could be hanging out in person, and literally said these exact words. I had the exact same idea to make a movie, right? And I literally, I'm talking to people that had training being a filmmaker, that had resources, because you're going to find out in the film that I sold my wedding rings. I actually convinced my husband to sell both of our wedding rings so that we could pay the rent 1 month, because I was willing to do whatever it took to get this film made. Okay. And that's not the only thing I sacrificed. That was a big thing, right? But I didn't have any training as a filmmaker. And I met filmmakers that had the same idea, but they didn't do it. And I would ask them, why didn't you do it? Well, because blah, 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 and then I needed to be a size 6, right? Whatever their BS reason was. But guess what? There's only one person in that conversation that actually did it. And I'm not saying that because I want to toot my own horn, but I am saying that I decided to deal with all the muck, because and the muck looks like this: lies. And it's like, how many lies can we tell about ourselves? You're not good enough. Your Spanish isn't good enough. You don't know all your history, all the things, right? I can't tell you how many lies I believed about myself and about my Latinidad and about my insufficiencies as a Latina that would totally disqualify me from making this film. I had to stop believing all of them. And I cried an ocean of tears. Why? Because there were lies, you guys. And I had to deal with why I believed it in the first place. But I'm so transformed. I'm so much better of a friend, of a mom. I'm going to make myself cry.
You're making me emotional. I feel it.
I'm better because of it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like literally a wedding ring is a small price to pay for the woman that I'm so proud to be today, because I can represent us, right? And I know that the impact of this film and the conversation it sparks and the conversation it's going to spark with the people that are watching right now is priceless. How could I put a price on there will be people on this call today and then on the 15th that'll talk to their husband, right? That'll have a conversation with their children, maybe stop being so hard on their kids, that'll apologize to a family member or a friend because they're willing to deal with this stuff. And I think I don't know a better use for my life than for being a great mom, a great wife, and also leading this conversation.
I love that. I mean, I'm so emotional just listening to you. And I think that's just like a perfect wrap up of kind of how we feel, and what we need to do and what we need to change within ourselves. One thing I wanted to add that you just kind of reminded me real quick was, there's with my mom kind of growing up, the stigmas of some things that she didn't believe about herself kind of passed down to me, and we have to change that. And purpose is bigger than ourselves. And we have so much to do, we have so much to pursue. And if you feel this passion for a dream or a vision that you want to change or you want to impact anything or anyone or one person, it's our obligation to deal with what we need to do internally and take a step forward again.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a great book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, I think her name is. She wrote the book Big Love, and she talks about a story that she wrote that somebody else was writing at the same time, literally the exact same story. And this concept about for evolution, this is going to be one of those woo ideas, but in order for evolution, right, social evolution to actually occur, certain things need to happen, right? The time we're living in right now is a great example. And the idea that, at least for me, I have really become so much better of a mom and so much more present with my kids because I'm simply here. I've been on over 100 planes over the last 3 years of my life. And I really haven't been as present or as grounded here in my house as I wish I could have been, right? And so I'm changing and I'm reprioritizing my life right now. And so in many ways, this time being on quarantine has been a great gift for me, right? And so this happening is difficult and challenging, and I don't want to step over that at all. And for those of us who can appreciate and are privileged enough to be able to appreciate the gifts, we're being given an opportunity right now to evolve. And so she says that people are given many people are given ideas, right? And so sometimes someone's like, well, I want to write a book. I want to start a podcast. I want to start my own business. I want to start a bakery. I don't know, whatever it is for you, right? That idea, other people have it too. And it's I'm not saying this to kind of put a fire under your butt because someone's going to get there first, because the way you do your idea is unique to you. It will have your unique imprint. It will have your unique signature in your unique way, right? I mean, I think everyone who's stuck around to this point knows I have a very unique way of delivering communication. And so there isn't anyone quite like me, right? And there isn't anyone quite like you. And that's the good news. And so whatever it is in your heart that you have this idea for, there's plenty of time. And there is, I am going to say, a social obligation to do it, because we are Latinos, and because our Latino youth, especially the young women, deserve to see you succeed. They deserve to see you be your very best self and owning and taking the space that you feel like you want to take up, because there's going to be this wave of these amazing Latinas that kind of appear in 10 or 20 years. They're going to be leading us, and they deserve to see you at your very best.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Denise, I want to talk. We could talk for hours. We could talk for hours. I mean, there's just so much that we could, keep bringing up with this. When does your second film come out? I know COVID kind of put some.
Yes, COVID unfortunately, it put a massive delay on things. So we are actually really focused on our podcast, which is called The Selfish Latina. So if you're looking for a new podcast to listen to, that's our podcast. And I'm super proud of it. And I hope you didn't get triggered by the name. Some people do. It's really good, worth listening to, even if you are triggered by the name. But the next film, knock on wood, will be out next fall/winter. So yeah.
Awesome. So tell us, and we'll put some of your social links below, and as well as the link to the movie, because you guys need to watch it. If you have not watched it, it will completely resonate with everyone watching this right now. But how can somebody subscribe to your stuff so that they can get it?
Yeah. So the best way is to go to our website, Project Enya, and that's without the tilde. I think it's without the tilde, projectenya.com. I'm the most active on Instagram at Project Enya. So if you're on Instagram, please follow me there. And like I said, the podcasts are just becoming more and more popular, and it really shows a totally different side to this project by listening. And we've interviewed I've had a chance to interview some really extraordinary people on the podcast, and it's a different style than maybe what you're used to. The podcast is documentary style, and I have to say we're a top 100 podcast right now. And so it's going to be like a Latino NPR. So our stories, things that are important to us to talk about, but in a very high production value, This American Life type of style.
Yay. I love it. I'm so excited. Let me make sure we got any questions in the comments here. I feel the same, Denise. It resonates with everyone. We all have and feel that this, we have the same cultural feelings and mindset things that we're dealing with. I love it. Just a lot of rave. Everybody's raving. Anybody have any questions? If you have any questions, put them now. All right. Wonderful, Denise. It's been an hour for you guys listening. If you're listening to this point or watching the replay, our Hispanic Business Leaders Hispanic Heritage Month event, which is a state of Hispanics in South Florida, is September 15th is our kickoff. Denise is going to be our keynote speaker. We're so excited. And what's the title of your talk? I'd rather you share it.
Yeah. So the title right now is called The Unifying Power of Belonging. And it's kind of a working title, but that's what it's called right now. And it's really about my journey to belonging and my steps and secrets to help you in a very practical way experience belonging in your life, and also create spaces for other people to belong in your life as well.
I love it. I'm so looking forward to it. And we're going to be sharing it, and we're going to be releasing your image soon so that everybody knows. Thank you so much, Denise.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks so much for having me. Obviously, I get really fired up about this stuff. It's really what I live and eat and breathe, and it just gets me really excited. And so for anyone who's still listening, this will be the debut actually of the keynote. This will be the world debut. So I've been working on it and been in rehearsals now with it for the last few weeks. And there's actually a really cool behind the scenes moment that you can check out on my Instagram at Project Enya. Leading up, I guess we have 2 more weeks, so there's some more behind the scenes that people will be able to see about it. But I'm super, super excited to deliver it and share it with you. And I don't want to give anything away, but it's going to be fun and interactive and really great. So thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Denise.
Yeah.
All right. So we will see you on the 15th. We'll talk in the middle of that. And again, thank you so much. You are such a blessing. I know so many people listening to this have been inspired and rejuvenated with that sense of identity and culture. So
awesome. Thank you.
You got it. All right. Take care, guys.